Hello and welcome, everyone. Come on in, tell a friend, come on in. We are with the tea with April. Come on, we've got a lot of tea to talk about. We're going to knock the pot over today. I've got my chai robust with me. Mm drinking it here in Mackinac, Michigan. I was here today for the Detroit Regional Chamber for a panel discussion. We had a great discussion. And guess what one of the topics happened to be? It was tariffs. Tariffs and that most recent decision. So I'm going to talk tariffs with our first guest, who happens to be one of the powerhouses in the Democratic Party. She's from Texas, a place where Beyonce hails from. Um, her name happens to be Congresswoman. Well, her name is Jasmine Crockett, but she is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Democrat from Texas. And also later in the show, we're going to have someone who has been dynamic for a very long time on the public stage, nationally and internationally. His name happens to be Pastor Jamal Harrison Bryant out of Atlanta, New Birth Baptist Church. We're going to talk about so much from the Target boycott all into the issue with the Smithsonian. So stand by and get your tea. We're going to knock the pot over. Tell your friends to join. It's the Tea with April. I'm telling you, we are having so many great sessions. So, what I want you guys to do right now is sit back. We want to bring in the Congresswoman from Texas. She replaced Eddie Bernice Johnson, who retired, and we unfortunately lost her last year. But we have Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who is talking a lot of things, not just about the bleach blonde, bad built body issues, but she's talking a lot of good things. And we want to talk to her about tariffs, as well as this big, beautiful bill that was in the House and is on its way to the Senate. So, without further ado, I would love to bring on Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Everyone, welcome Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Well, as we're waiting for her to come, listen. So, we're going to talk with her about the tariffs, but that tariff ruling that happened last night, that tariff ruling was something. Three judges from this panel, this court that we really didn't know about until yesterday. It was this trade court that handed down this decision telling President Trump that, hey, you cannot do these arbitrary tariffs. Now, the judges happen to be appointed from the Trump era, the first Trump era, also from the Reagan era and the Obama era, and it was a unanimous decision. Now, for places like here in Detroit, where they deal with domestic automaking, they have parts. They might make the cars here, but they have parts that go down to places like Mexico, and you could be receiving another tariff or something. So it would raise the price of the car. So that's not going to happen right now. But the White House is planning on appealing. Stephen Miller is upset. The White House wants to appeal this decision. But think about this. Here in Michigan, just across the border is Canada. And in Canada, they have a certain type of tree that they use to make our toilet tissue, our and it's real, our toilet tissue, our napkins, our paper towels. And because we get those products from Canada, another tariff. And President Trump wants to make sure that we buy American and we have manufacturing here. But here's the question. If we do that and you take a lot of this industry away from places like China or Mexico, what happens here? The price of employing people will go up. So what would businesses have to do? Would they have to mitigate the increase by letting more people go? Those are some of the questions with this whole tariff issue that we are trying to figure out. And also, here's another thing. Here's another thing. When it comes to the issue of China and the United States, we consume more than China consumes from us. We consume more than China consumes from us. So I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get what the president's trying to do, but the devil is in the details. And I'm going to ask my team: Is the congresswoman here? Are we ready for the congresswoman? Hello, all. Are we ready for the congresswoman? All right. Well, she's going to be here in a moment. Either way, I want you guys to also think about this. We're talking about tariffs. We're going to talk about tariffs, but also I want you guys to think about this, the big, beautiful bill. This big, beautiful bill. People are calling it ugly, an ugly piece of you know what. But let me tell you this, that as we have this win on tariffs, there's a loss when it comes to the issues of this big, beautiful bill. Think about this. Medicaid and Medicare, you have no insurance for millions of people. They're taking Medicaid away from illegal migrants. Not only that, they're talking about certain sectors of those who get Social Security will be able to take the benefits take tax benefits from this. The only thing that I'm hearing right now that's really good about this big, beautiful bill is the fact that this big, beautiful bill gives people who get overtime, tax free overtime, and tax free tips. And without further ado, I'm ready to go to the congresswoman from Texas, the congresswoman who can link a lot of words together and make you say, "Wow!" And she's one of those in the Democratic Party that everybody's looking to. And without further ado, I would like to bring to you Congresswoman, Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Hello, Congresswoman. Hi, I can't hear. There you go. I can hear you now. How you doing?
I'm making it. I'm making it.
And I see that the Shirley Chisholm picture and your picture right next to you, behind you, actually. That's amazing. Unbossed and unbought. I love it.
That's
So,
right.
Congresswoman, yeah. So, Congresswoman, talk to me about this win, this temporary win, because there's going to be an appeal on these tariffs. Talk to me about what you think from this three-judge panel of this court that we didn't even know existed.
I honestly have not read the court order, and so I've not dug into it, but I am excited to dig into it. I was excited to read the news yesterday that finally
Mhm.
some branch of government decided to put a check on the executor. And this is what this kind of comes down to is like the basics. I applaud Harvard for going out and saying, listen, we're going to offer free courses so that y'all can
Yeah.
understand the basics of government because clearly it has failed too many people in this country. And so, what we have seen thus far is honestly, there's been a breaking that we've experienced within the legislative branch, in which the legislative branch has basically folded, but the
Hmm.
judiciary has not completely folded. And that's what we saw in this decision, is that they were laying out, to the best of my understanding, without reading it, that he has exceeded his authority. Um, we agree in the legislature as well. Just for everybody that's watching, normally you would not have the president that's like just out here whiling around tariffs in this way. Typically, there has to be some sort of emergency declaration of some sort, kind of, sort of. There just needs to be like a special circumstance before he starts to kind of flip through and play around with it
And he
without the
was saying that this was an emergency moment, and it's not.
correct. So, in his mind, he got a lot of emergencies. That is for sure. It's kind of like he has declared that there is a war that exists to the extent that he is able to invoke the um, Enemy Aliens Acts, right? And so he declared that. Now, we ain't under siege, we not at war, but he declared that. And then, therefore, under those circumstances, though, you are allowed to kind of just get people out because they are attacking, right? And so he did the same thing. He said that we were in an economic emergency, and right now we probably are, but it's one that he started. That is for sure. It's not that he walked in. He walked in and the stock market was not crashing every other day. The stock market was fine. He walked in and our credit rating had not been downgraded. The credit rating was fine. He walked in and things actually were,
Yeah.
better, but he decided to
Yeah.
declare an emergency so that he could then start these trade wars.
And you said something so important, and people haven't really dealt with this. The credit rating, the United States credit rating, is a big deal. The fact that our credit rating is not stellar where it used to be. Now, what does that mean for the average person when the United States rating is not in good standing, is not AAA or AA, etc.?
Yeah, so basically, we all got a credit score, including the United States. And so when you think about, what you can get and how much it costs for you to borrow money, is a lot cheaper to borrow money when you have a, say, 800 credit score versus when you have a 400 credit score.
Hmm.
So thinking about it in those terms, when we start to talk about things like they want to raise the debt ceiling, like under this big ugly bill, they want to raise the debt ceiling approximately $5 trillion. But here is the thing,
Hmm.
that $5 trillion is actually so much more expensive today under this administration than it was yesterday under the last
Yeah,
administration. Because now it's like, hey, we need to borrow this money, but now your interest rate is going to be higher on that borrowed money because your credit score is not as good. And so when we start to talk about, how important it is to actually start to dig out of our debt, we have to recognize that our debt is so much more expensive right now. And
yeah.
so therefore it's that much more difficult. And so we really should be, I want to be clear, because I think that there is this rhetoric that Democrats don't believe in making sure that we are being fiscally responsible. We absolutely believe that. The last time there was a balanced budget, it was under who? A Democrat. It was under Bill Clinton, right? So Democrats want to be
Zero
fiscally,
debt.
yeah, exactly. We want to be fiscally responsible, right? But everybody has their priorities in different places, and that's where kind of we end up with this collision course. We believe in prioritizing the people. Go ahead.
But here's the thing: the economy was the reason the Donald Trump won the election. It was supposed to be about fraud, waste, and abuse. Donald Trump won the election on the economy, but look at what's happening right now.
I mean, I hear you. I'm not going to say all the reasons he won. I think he won more so because there was a lack of education out there for people to truly understand how things work, right? Like people being frustrated about the inflation that we did endure and that we still were kind of suffering the remnants of, didn't necessarily fully understand or want to understand that it was a global inflation that we were struggling with because of the global pandemic, because we live by global supply chains. Now, I think people are getting educated in the moment, right? As we're talking about tariffs and understanding that, yes, there are jobs that have been shipped off to China a long time ago that don't nobody in the United States want to do. And definitely ain't doing them for the prices that they are doing them for in China. And so, like, better understanding, I think that we have at least had a bit of education about the fact that, when you had the Democrats that came in, you had Joe Biden that was pushing the Chips and Science Act, and there's nothing that necessarily sounded sexy about chips and science, right? That didn't necessarily get people's minds going or get them super excited. But these were the things that were absolutely going to protect against global supply chain issues, as well as grow new high paying dollar jobs. Okay. And so thinking about the fact that there's a chip in everything, but we don't really make chips here in the United States. The vast majority of them actually come out of Taiwan. Taiwan is really the big global supplier. And then you've got China. So when you started to have cars that were more expensive, every car got a chip. When you had phones, laptops, whatever it was that were more expensive, it was because there was the demand that was there, but the supply wasn't there because the supply chains had somewhat shut down. So we wanted to say, you know what, maybe we should have some of this at home. And so there are states such as Ohio, which voted for Donald Trump, that ended up benefiting from the Chips and Science Act because there were now companies that were coming in to provide new high-paying jobs and make sure that we could get chips right here in the United States. We did the same thing in Texas. They ended up with a multi-billion-dollar investment. And so, I think that people are getting a civics lesson as well as an economics lesson. And I don't want anybody to believe that I believe that their frustration was not warranted, because people are struggling and were struggling and still are struggling. But it's levels to this, right? And the levels of struggling are about to increase and have been increasing. Ever since he got in, the price of eggs have been going up. Now, some people are like, oh, the price of eggs is going down now. I'm like, yeah, but they went up first, right? the cost of food hasn't gone down overall since he's gotten in. And so, but the difference is, are we enduring struggles that we had to? And the answer is absolutely not. These are self-inflicted wounds that we are dealing with right now.
So my last question on this, that big, beautiful bill that some people call it ugly and call it a big, beautiful pile of you know what, it's going to add to the deficit that's already exploded. It's exploded to the point where it's higher than what it was during the Great Depression here in this country, from the way we understand it.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely right. So, I've been out talking to my seniors and listening to them and answering questions. And so I've tried to think of ways to kind of like just make this very plain. And the best way to make it very plain is for anybody that has ever worked a job, y'all understand how this works. So let's pretend that you have a job that pays you $100,000 a year. And so you've made your mandatory bills around that, right? Your mandatory bills would be your essentials. That would be your housing. So you may have decided that you bought a certain house because your income was $100,000. The type of car you drive so that you can get to that job, and food, right? So these are kind of your basics that you're going to cover. In dealing with reconciliation, we're only dealing with the basics. Every time we talk about the government shutting down, that's our discretionary spending, okay? So that is when we get to fiscal end of year at September 30th. So every time we like, oh, is the government going to shut down? It's that discretionary stuff. So that's whether or not you go to the movies, that's whether or not you take that trip, that's whether, like, that's how we have things broken up, okay? So there were three main committees that played a big role in the reconciliation bill. They were Ways and Means. Ways and Means is determine how much money you got coming in. That is your income tax, okay? So instead of them saying, oh, this $100,000 you make a year, well, we want to actually take in less money. We want to make less, okay? So don't worry about the percentages. Just work with me on numbers in general. So let's say they dropped it from 100,000 down to 75,000 or 50,000, okay? So now you got these mandatory bills that's been laid out based on the fact that you make $100,000. Now your house, you may need a different house. You may need to downsize, okay? In order to be able to kind of like keep up with like not going into the hole, right? So they have decided to downsize the house, which the house looks like what we got out of Energy and Commerce in the form of them deciding that they wanted to cut $880 billion from Medicaid, which looks like approximately 14 million people, according to the Congressional Budget Office, not according to the Democrats, according to the Congressional Budget Office, which is a nonpartisan office, has determined that approximately 14 million people stand to lose their health care. Okay. They then also decided, let's go over to the Agriculture Committee and let's cut a little over $300 billion from SNAP benefits, right? So people get $6 a day to eat, and SNAP benefits, they're saying that's way too much. And they claim, this is where we can find all the waste, fraud, and abuse. It's that $6 a day to eat. That's where we gonna get out of debt, is by going after them people. So decide that they're gonna cut over $300 billion from that. Right. So you would think, you're like, okay, cool. So now I don't make as much money. So I've reined it in. I don't have as big of a house. Right. So now my cousins can come stay. Right. Like I'm in a 1-bedroom instead of a 3-bedroom. We've done all of this. And we're saying, you know what? We still in debt. We still. So literally the cuts that they decided that they wanted to give really to the wealthiest are so big that they exceed the fact that we're cutting people off of their health care and we're cutting people out of their ability to eat. They exceed that. We still have to say, oh, well, we're still in debt. And really, we ain't got nothing to show for it except for the fact that really super rich people will see a lot more money in their pockets. It is truly not a partisan thing, in my opinion, because it's not Democrats, Republicans, or independents only that are going to suffer it's going to be everybody that suffers the harm. And I think that that's really what the conversation needs to be around, is that this isn't partisanship. It is only one party that is pushing back, but it's really that we are fighting not just for Democrats, we're fighting for everybody.
I've got one last question for you. Everyone is asking where are the Democrats in this moment. You've been out. We've seen Congressman Al Green, and we've definitely seen Senator Cory Booker. Where are the Democrats? Where's the fight?
The fight is happening. The way that I like to talk about it is that we have a team and we all play different roles. We have different positions that we play on the team. And what I can say is that people are fighting, but how it is that their fight is amplified or not is really the big issue. And so I think that it comes down to our communications, making sure that we're pushing it out. A lot of members, they're like, oh, well, we put it up on our social media, right? But it's like, there's a science to it, right? Like you got to make sure that you have a team, a comms team that is growing your following so that, yes, you put it out there, but if you're like yelling into a void, it didn't really go anywhere, right? And we have to
Hmm.
make sure that we're being very strategic about communications and bringing in partners when we can to make sure that we're amplifying the work that we're doing. And frankly, people think you come to Congress and they probably would think that we get some kind of media training or we get something. No, you got elected and that's that, right? And so I think that we need to be very thoughtful about where we place members and we put members into spaces that make them most comfortable, right? Like I'm probably not the best person to like say go talk to a hunting magazine or go on a podcast that's all about hunting. Like it's not my ministry. It's not, right? Like I could tell you about my papa, but like I'm not the one, right? But there are people in our caucus that could kind of be filling that void and expanding our reach so that even those people that are hunters, right, have someone that they're like, oh, such and such is doing such and such. But we also
Yeah.
have to get out of the, as politicians, we stay in just the political realms. And I think
Hmm.
for me, I have always understood that like you may not be politically engaged, but everybody is politically impacted. And so therefore I do my best to make sure I go beyond just the stereotypical political spaces, but go and get to the people where they are. And that has to be the goal, is to meet people where they are.
Well, Congresswoman, I want to thank you for sipping tea with me on the Tea with
Yes,
April. So,
yes, yes, yes.
mm,
Thank you for having me.
yes, you knocked the pot over. Thank you so much.
You have a good one.
You like that, huh? But
I
thank
do.
you. Thank you. I hope you can join again.
Absolutely.
All right, Congresswoman, thank you. We just heard from Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Democrat from Texas. This is a moment where people are trying to find out what's going on because the stakes are so high. They are so high economically. This tariff issue, the big, beautiful bill issue. And, people are trying to find out who's fighting for them in the midst of this pain that's being talked about and that's potentially coming. So, as we talk about the economy, as we talk about pain and how to, remedy some of the situations. We've got an activist out here. He is a dynamic young man, comes from a dynamic family. You've heard him say, they're not going to mess with me because I'm from West Baltimore. Uh, This man just recently, he was the target at the White House during Black History Month, where they had signs with his face bobbing up and down in the crowd. I'm talking about none other than Pastor Jamal Harrison Bryant out of Atlanta, Georgia, New Birth Baptist Church senior pastor. He is one of the reasons why he's a target is because he has power, the power to galvanize people, the power to help emphasize more this DEI, this anti DEI issue. And I want to bring him in now, and we're going to talk about Target. We're going to talk about uh, Essence, the Essence Festival, and Target. We're going to talk about the Smithsonian. And I want to bring to you a friend by the name of well, his name is Jamal Harrison Bryant, but his pastor, and he's an activist as well. Hello, sir.
Hey, Auntie, how are you? I can't hear you. 18, I just went blank.
Mike, okay, hold on. We see
No,
you.
I'm here.
My
I'm
team has
here
got
now.
you.
I'm here. They're
Okay.
wonderful.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
All right. So talk to me, my friend. He calls me auntie because I tried to save him a couple of times, but this is that Baltimore connection. This is that wonderful Baltimore connection. But Pastor Bryant, talk to me about this effort you have with Target because our audience, our contrarian audience, has heard so much about it. But you are one of the leaders. You didn't start it, but your
No.
voice has really carried this and created a ripple effect. Talk to us about where you are right now with this Target boycott.
Some amazing super bad sisters in Minneapolis started a grassroots effort. It is the ground where George Floyd was killed, but it is also the headquarters for Target. They began mobilizing because after the inauguration of Donald Trump, they canceled their DEI initiative and pledges. I stepped up and said the black church has got to be involved and got to be engaged because for the last 25, 30 years, the black church has been on the sidelines and has not been involved. And so I called a target fast from Ash Wednesday to Resurrection Sunday, charging 2,000 churches around the country to get in lockstep and advise their parishioners not to get involved. April, 225,000 people signed the covenant that they were not going to go into Target. And because of that, you talk about economic strength of unity. Because of that, Target stock dropped from $145 a share to $93 a share. Their valuation has dropped by $12 billion. The CEO's salary has been cut by 42%. The foot traffic has dropped by 7%. Online shopping has dropped by 8.9%. This is the most effective boycott of black people, April, since the Montgomery bus boycott 70 years ago. And so I'm grateful for all of your viewers who did not go into Target, who put a post, who put a like, because this wasn't led by any civil rights organization. It was really a grassroots social media campaign. And I'm just grateful that the community resonated with it and took the ball across the finish line.
So you already got a lot of people already asking questions. They're asking, how do you get Target to reverse its DEI stance? Particularly, you've already made an impact because
Yeah,
they already their numbers have dropped, and they're not
yeah,
necessarily saying the boycott, but they're talking about the tariffs that are coming. But the boycott has made a difference.
yeah. It's made a profound difference. This is how profound it's been. Is Reverend Sharpton and I met with the president and CEO maybe a month ago, and April 3 weeks later, the president of Target was summoned to the White House. From that time to this, there's been no communication, no return
Mm.
phone calls, no emails. And so they would rather die pledging allegiance to the administration rather than hearing the cry of their consumer base. And so CNN gave a report that they had to give a warning to all of the shareholders that it's going to continue to plummet because of the boycott initiative. So we know we're making an impact, whether they acknowledge it or not.
So we got a lot of questions. So one person says, "What about Walmart? Is it next?" And then another person says, "This isn't a GOP problem. This is a class problem."
Yes. So the next is Dollar General. And let me explain why. A lot of people are blindsided because April, I didn't know it. And when I tell your listeners, they're going to be blown away. Dollar General has 3 times more stores than Target and Walmart combined. They have 21,000 stores when Target only has 800. I need you all to hold on to your pearls. You might lose it. There's a Dollar General within 5 miles of 75% of all Americans. Dollar General, yes, Dollar General is more pronounced in rural black communities that only earn $30,000 or less a year. So think about it. You a girl mom, I'm a girl dad.
Mm.
Wherever there's a beauty supply store, within that same block is a Dollar General. And here's what's amazing. Dollar General in 2024 made 40 billion in profit. You're a graduate of Morgan. I'm a graduate of Morehouse. Dollar General has never given a dime to an HBCU or any civil rights organization. Here's what you all need to be aware of. Only 2% of the leadership of Dollar General are black people. Only 2%. All right, and so we decided that while they're hiding under the radar, that we wanted to pull the sheets off because they have more black employees than Target and more black employees than Walmart, but we've not paid any attention to it. What I also want to add, April, is that while they're supposed to stand in the gap for food deserts, you all clutch your pearls again. Dollar General doesn't have contracts with not one black farmer. Not one black farmer supplies to Dollar General. Furthermore, they have not opened their shelves to black vendors. A lot of the pushback that we got when we initially rolled out Target was, what about the black businesses that are on the shelves? What about the black entrepreneurs? We don't have that fight when we deal with Dollar General. And so we're using the slogan, Dollar General is not worth a dime. And so we're going after one organization at a time. And so the next one up to bat, after Target, we've canceled Target. I'm not waiting 381 days as our ancestors did in Montgomery. We waited 13 weeks. We're done with Target. Target now has to come to us. But we're not sending no more phone calls, no more emails. If they want our business, then they're going to have to handle us respectfully.
Handle us respectfully. This movement reminds me of the civil rights movement. It reminds
Yes.
me of the Montgomery bus boycott. Started out slow, but the momentum changed a dynamic of
Yes.
racism in transportation in in Montgomery, Alabama. Do you see that somewhat
Oh, no.
in this moment?
Listen, it's not plagiarism, it's a remix. I'm taking the whole blueprint because the Montgomery bus boycott was birthed out of the womb of the black church. And so that's why I'm having the black church as the center of it. I don't want to jump over where you're going to ask me in terms of the museum, but we've got 2,000 churches that are committed, April, that on Juneteenth Sunday, which is the weekend of June 20th, I believe it's June 22nd, 2,000 churches are going to raise an offering for the African American Smithsonian Museum. Because while they're being threatened with losing federal funding, I think that the black church has got to stand up. There is no civil rights without the black church. So the black church can't just do it in lip service. We got to reach into our pocketbooks.
Speaking of the Smithsonian, speaking of the Smithsonian, we are at a point where our history is washed. And how do we save it? I mean, the artifacts are leaving under this, I don't know, under the cover of, oh, it's a loan. They're trying to make it not
Yeah.
look like it's part of this Trump push to whitewash it. How do we actually keep what is ours and fight back so we don't lose the wokeness or the anti-DEI or our history? Because truth be told, you or I wouldn't be here if it weren't for slavery.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
don't want to talk about that.
Malcolm X said it's a poor slave that leaves the education of its children in the hand of its oppressors. And so part of our responsibility is disavow the notion of Black History Month is only for February. And so our churches have got to be involved. You're a part of the Divine Nine as I am. We got to go into the community and educate and explore as well as expose our young people about what is taking place in our history because Black history is American history. The reality is there would be no stock market if it wasn't for the slave trade. The reality is there would be no cotton. The reason why America is one of the wealthiest nations in the world is because of 300 years of free labor. And so you cannot separate that. And as uncomfortable as it is for the Republican and MAGA followers, they've got to deal with the reality of the bed that they made, they now have to lie in.
So someone just asked, one of our contrarians just asked, are we doing anything about mutual aid?
Yeah, I think that, and I'm glad that you brought that up, is this is the hour that I have been trumpeting that there is no longer a singular leader or a singular organization, that people have to pick a lane. I could stay on with you for 9 hours, April, to talk about the issues that are contending in front of us. I'm going to name
Yeah.
four that nobody is really championing in our community. We've allowed mainstream media to reduce the immigration issue around Mexicans, but nobody is saying anything about the 500,000 unprotected Haitians and Jamaicans and West Indians who are languishing in Florida. That's number one. Number two, we're saying nothing, April, that in the fall, a lot of our children will not be able to get free lunch. And so
That
what
part.
I've been saying to church, yeah, what I've been saying to churches, y'all get the church mothers ready because we may need to take over these cafeterias, or we may need to bring buses to bring the kids to the church because that's the only meal that they'll get. Number three, let me raise it. It's important. Harvard is all over the news. They're losing
Mm,
$700 million. Columbia University, 500 million. Our own Baltimore Johns Hopkins is losing 300 million.
yeah,
But 2 weeks ago, it was announced that Howard University is losing 65 million.
yeah.
Morgan State University, where April is a graduate, has one of the finest presidents of any HBCU and has
David
raised a
Wilson.
whole lot of money, has done an incredible development. And Morgan is quickly becoming a part of the Ivy League of HBCUs. But we've got to ask critical questions like what will
Hmm.
happen to the funding of small colleges like Bethune Cookman, like
Yes.
Tougaloo,
Yeah.
like Payne College. Those, if they lose it, then we're going to find ourselves in a very critical place. Fourth, very quickly, is
You know he's a preacher.
yesterday.
He's got all these points. But go ahead.
I've got all of them. The fourth one that we have to deal with is yesterday, the hood celebrated the commuting of the sentence of Larry Hoover. They also celebrated the dismissal of the pardon that was given to young NBA. Two people who are in rap hip hop culture without paying attention that the prison pipeline just got new pipes and are getting ready to flush masses of people. I have been doing for 13 weeks a boycott against Target here this April without protest, without demonstrations, because I have a real pause and concern because 2 weeks ago we saw they'll arrest a mayor. They will put out a warrant for a congressperson. My whole life has been around civil rights, and I don't have the confidence that activists will not be recategorized as terrorists. And so, as a consequence, I'm pushing people to
Black
protest with
activists.
their
Black
pocketbook. Come
activists.
on now. There we
Black
are.
activists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because
Yeah.
in the hands off demonstration 3 weeks ago, in three of the cities, they were only arresting black women. And so we've got to be very shrewd and very calculated about how it is that we demonstrate in this era.
And not only that, and you're absolutely right. And many of our contrarians don't have the experience in this country as a black person, and now people are being removed without due process. So
Yeah.
there's a lot, and I get it. So, and but you've got ministers going, you've got a couple of ministers around the country now going and
Yes.
praying in front of targets.
So we
Is
had
that make
Sunday, April. Yeah, April, we had Sunday 56 pastors. 56 pastors around the country marched out of church on Sunday and went and prayed outside of Target. What we
Mhm.
did was so strategic and so significant. We partnered with the National Bar Association. So when those
Okay.
56 churches went, we assigned black lawyers to go with them, number one. Number two, they only stayed for 9 minutes and 40 seconds because it was the fifth anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. And
Yeah.
Derek Chauvin applied pressure for that amount of time. So I asked them to just stay within that 10-minute window and then leave. And I'm grateful that we had no incidents, no accidents, and no interruptions because we did everything in decency and in order.
Well, you've joined me with the tea with April. I'm sipping my tea. You've knocked the pot over.
Oh, listen,
Mm. You got to have your tea next time you
listen,
come.
I'm coming.
Yeah, but listen, here's the next piece. I want to talk about Essence, the largest gathering of Black people in this nation. It happens the July 4th weekend in New Orleans. And here's an issue. As you talk about Target, Target is what has been one of the major sponsors, along with Coca-Cola, AT&T, McDonald's, who's also pulled back on their DEI programs. They're I guess sponsoring again this year. Is it wrong for Essence to accept the money from Target?
So we've been in high level conversations with Essence. And what I want the listeners to know, it was a part of a 4-year contract. And this is the fourth year. They are not the signature sponsor, Coca Cola is. And so, what we have said, Nina Turner, Tamika Mallory, and those who work within our group around this, is we love Essence, but we walking away from Target. And so we want people to support Essence because it's the largest black-owned media company in the country. And so we want to push all of it around them. But anything Target is having, we're not supporting it, but we're standing 10 toes down with Essence.
So we have a great diverse cross section of people. What would you tell allies to this? People who don't look like you and I. What would you tell them to
Yeah,
do in this moment when it comes to these boycotts that you are
yeah.
surrounding yourself with?
Yes, we're asking everyone to write Dollar General, to call Dollar General, and to put in your social media hashtag Dollar General's not worth a dime. We're doing it a little bit differently than we've done ordinarily with Target. This is electronic driven because in rural areas, regrettably and embarrassingly, Dollar General is the only access people have to food. And so we don't want to starve our children and our seniors when that's their only opportunity. So those who are allies and friends of the movement, ask that you'll register your voice and your concern on social media, as well as that you will call Dollar General directly.
So, Pastor Jamal Harrison Bryant, tell everyone where they
Yes,
can see you on Sunday, where you
yes,
bring down some timber, you raise the roof,
yes,
literally. And this is the
yes,
pastor that Kamala Harris attended the church during her on her birthday, and he got a lot
yes.
of hate from that, and that's one of the reasons why they had his picture bobbing up and down in the White House during Black History Month.
Yes. Ask that you'll follow us at newbirth.org or go to New Birth on YouTube, and you'll be able to follow all of our movements. I am on social media, Jamal H. Bryant. If it is not verified, then it's not me. But ask that you'll follow me on all social media platforms.
I appreciate you. I thank you for always showing up for me.
I love you. Thank you for saving my life every time.
Your family has saved mine. Well, we just had some tea. I'm still sipping. We knocked the pot
Listen,
over with the pasta. The cup
thank you
went
so very
on the
much.
floor. Thank you, Pastor. Guys,
Thank you. Love you
contrarians, thank you.
always.
Thank you. Love you more. Contrarians, this has been a show. We had the great Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett talking A to Z about this moment, talking about Democrats, and we had Pastor Jamal Harrison Bryant, who is one of the leaders of this Target effort. You heard it from them specifically. These are important times when what we knew, what we thought we knew, is being shifted and changed and challenged. So I want you guys to continue to follow Congresswoman Crockett, continue to follow Jamal Harrison Bryant. It's important for people to understand the minutia and the dynamics in these moments. And that's one of the reasons why we have tea with April, the tea with April. We have knocked the pot over. My tea is gone. My chai robust is gone. But hey, I had a good time. I hope you did too. Join us next week. Please join us next week. We've got a whole host of issues coming. I talked to Debbie Dingle here in Michigan. I'm trying to get her next week. So let's see if she joins. But either way, I want you guys to have a good week. Continue to follow Coffee with Jen and Norm. And don't forget, 5 p.m. on Thursdays, the tea with April. We knocked the pot over today. Thank you guys. See you soon. Bye bye.